Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. Jerusalem, the most hotly contested real estate in the world. Judea and Samaria, condemned by the world as the West Bank. You'll not see it in the media. Journalists try to hide it. Real stories about real people, fathers, mothers, children, families. These are the people of the heartland of Israel. Your journey with him continues with the Joshua and Caleb Report, stories from the heartland of Israel.
Avraham, it is awesome to be here with you this morning and to really just hear your story. I think you really have a phenomenal story, and there's so many parts of it. We can go into the athletic side of your life and all the way into unicycles and running and all this, and we'll get into that. But I really just your story into even the professional world of the law and all these things that you studied and really gone into. There's so many different parts. Your family. There's so many beautiful things that we really want to hear about, and I just want to start all the way back in the States. You didn't grow up here in Israel, and I really want to go back to those beginning days where you were molded, even as a young guy, growing up in the States.
All right. So I was born in the States, in Pennsylvania, and I was born to a Jewish family, religious Orthodox family, a small community in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I was always connected to the community and connected to the synagogue, but we didn't have a greater feeling of people of Israel and land of Israel. And we had visited Israel a few times growing up and talked a lot about Israel, celebrated Israeli independence, but I didn't really get a real feel for it until I was 18 years old. And like a lot of my peers, we decided to go to yeshiva in Israel, spend a year studying Torah, and my plan was to spend this year, go back to university, settle down in the States. And I came to the land, and I was just very excited about everything I saw. And not only did I experience the land, I met the people. And I felt like the Torah that I was learning in the land was unique. It was different. I was learning a different message. I was learning the importance of the land to the people. And I was learning about the connection to the land, and I was able to experience the land, walk in the place that my forefathers walked, and really feel a connection to the land. And I said to my parents, listen, I need another year. And 1 year turned into 2 years. And after 2 years, I said to my parents, I'd like to come home back to the States, but the problem is I fell in love. And what do you mean you fell in love? Like a 19-year-old kid falling in love? I said, yeah, I fell in love with the land. So we made a decision that I was going to go back to the States, get a degree in college, and I took it upon myself to get back to Israel as soon as I can. And after getting the degree, I moved here, got married, and we started setting up a family here in Israel.
Wow, so wait a second. So you came from the States, obviously. You moved from the States here to Israel. And the thing is, I'm curious to ask that what was it that made you so connected to the land? Like, it was something that had to change. Obviously, you grew up in the U.S., and I'm sure you probably, sang our national anthem in the U.S., and you're very patriotic to the country, but then something switched automatically when you came here to the land of Israel. What happened there?
Well, it's really hard to sum it up, and, just talking to you here, because it was just a lot of experience, a lot of meeting the people, being here, and learning about the land, and seeing what was happening, and seeing the fact that it's the land of the Jewish people. The Jewish people were meant to be here. And I said to myself, I've been praying all my life, and in our prayers we talk about returning to Zion, asking God to return His presence, building the temple. And here I had the opportunity to fulfill this myself. A lot of the prayers, we don't just sit back and relax and we wait for God to fulfill the prayers. We ask God to give us wealth, but we don't, we also go out and we work, we get a job to support our family. It's not enough just to sit back and pray, and I felt the same thing about being in the land of Israel. We can pray for the redemption. We could pray for returning all of the Jewish people back to the land, but how can I consider myself praying properly if I have the ability to move here and I don't take that opportunity? For thousands of years, going back to my grandfather in Europe, to my great-grandparents who perished in the Holocaust. They didn't have this ability that we have nowadays. We have this ability to come here, to make this move. You know, there might be some hardships along the way, but now it's easier than ever before. And we've been given this gift that we can come back to our land. This very land that Abraham was promised. When he talked to God, God said, this is going to be your land, it's going to be your children's land. We have this great present. Who am I to turn it down?
Wow, that's incredible. So when you made the decision to come, there had to have been like a transition period there. Was there people that were anti you coming to the land? Like, I mean, were your family, was your relatives, was your uncle saying, man, you're just totally nuts?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess, you know, my parents considered themselves Zionists and, you know, supported Israel financially, and they were always very happy when the neighbors' children moved to Israel. But this here now, it really hit close to home, because I was one of 3 boys, and I decided that I got to move. I got to live somewhere else, and it's difficult to move 6,000 miles away.
So were you always the adventuresome one out of the brothers, or kind of the one?
I guess before studying in Israel, I was just excited to have this new experience, to try it out. I wasn't planning on staying, but after being here and after tasting and learning about it and understanding what Israel is and what it means to us, and our connection, our deep connection to the land, and the fact that our prayers were being fulfilled before our eyes. 1948, there were 600,000 Jews here, and now we have over 6 million Jews. And that's only because of decisions made by people to actually come here.
Wow, wow, wow. So Naomi's also from the States, your wife, correct? And so did she come with you, or did you marry before you left? Or?
Yeah, we met each other while we were both in college in New York. And Naomi was kind of pessimistic. She said, you know, I'm here in the States and I'm planning on going to Israel. I might meet someone, but I really got to be careful because I want to meet someone who is interested and excited about Israel and is going to move there. So we got married, and a month and a half later, we made the move.
Wow, that's incredible. So you came to Israel. Where'd you go first as soon as you came here?
So we were living near Ashdod, in the coastal plain. We spent a few years there. I was in the army as well, and I was also studying. And we made a decision that we were going to set up our family and build a household here in the Shomron. And we checked out a lot of different communities in the Shomron, and we ended up in Har Bracha.
So what would you say was the most challenging thing that happened to you in regards to, maybe not say happened, but what was the most challenging thing into integrating yourself into coming here to the land? Because I know a lot of Americans have a hard time really settling down here in Israel, it seems like sometimes.
Well, I think there are really 2 things. One is the language. We grew up in an English-speaking house. We had learned Hebrew as sort of a textual language, something that we prayed in Hebrew and, you know, read texts and read the Bible. But as a spoken language, it's kind of difficult. So for my wife and I, we're in an environment where most of the people around us spoke Hebrew, luckily, because that forced us to learn language. So we learned the language. We can converse very well now, and now our kids don't have to go through that same struggle that we did. And I think another thing is the mentality. There's a little bit of a different mentality here than growing up in the States. Here is people come from all over the place. In our community, we have people that are from Russia, Ukraine, France, Ethiopia, Morocco, United States, Canada. People came, and you have also native Israelis that have been here for many generations. It's really a melting pot of Jewish people coming from all over the world, and we see the prophecies being fulfilled. We see the fact that there's an ingathering of the exiles, and establishing this community. When I came to this community here in Har Bracha 11 years ago, there were about 100 families. Now we're over 350. It's come to the point where I can walk down the street, I don't know who's a guest, I don't know who lives there, because people are moving in all the time, and it's already like a city. I can't keep track of everyone who lives there.
Mm-hmm. So along with the Hebrew thing though, do you have when you're speaking to somebody that you automatically can know whether they're formerly American, or do you still have that American accent?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I grew up with speaking English, and I can't say certain letters in Hebrew properly. So as soon as I start talking in Hebrew, people automatically know that I'm American. Some people think that my wife is French because her accent's a little bit better than mine.
Really? That's really cool. So it's like you're asking something in Hebrew, and all of a sudden they'll answer you back in English, and you go, oh, "What was that?" It's like because they know you're. Because I've heard a lot of Americans have a hard time not speaking to other Americans in English. Like, it's because that's kind of like your mother tongue or whatever. But there's definitely a movement here, and I guess, and obviously it's not a movement, it's an identity in the Hebrew language here in Israel. And I think that's something I want you to kind of share a little bit more on, because I think that's something that I know I'm definitely interested in, is why is Hebrew so important, and why is it so important as far as the restorative process for the land of Israel is for the Hebrew tongue to be spoken here?
Well, I think that there are really two things. I think Hebrew is one of the things that unites us as a people. That people are coming in from all over the place. You know, I have friends who grew up speaking Amharic, which is the language of Ethiopian Jews, and other friends grew up speaking Russian, and other friends grew up speaking Hebrew. And we all come here together, and we have one common language. We can all converse in this language, and it brings to the unity of the Jewish people. Secondly, maybe even more importantly, it's the language of our texts. It's the language of our Bible. And I always, I'm very connected to the language. And sometimes, as you guys know, I'll read the translation of the Bible, and I'll look at the original in the original Bible text, and I'll say, wait, but that's not what it says. So someone put their fingerprint on it. Someone changed it to modify it to English. Any translation you get is going to be imperfect, because it's not going to have all the nuances that this original has. And the fact that everyone here in the land is speaking that language, it gives us a new connection to our Bible that we didn't have before.
Wow, I've heard say that a lot of words, like in the Hebrew text, there's like 50 English words you could possibly translate that into. And so it's like when you think, if you read one Hebrew word and this could be translated into 50 different English words, it's like, what is our Bible really saying to us? Like, we need to learn the language of heaven, I guess, to say.
Yeah, on a mystical level, we believe that Hebrew is the language that was used to create the world, that God spoke and created the world, and there were a number of speeches, number of words that God said, and the world is created. We see the power of this language. And a lot of languages stem from the Hebrew language.
Wow, that's incredible. So hey, let's speed this up a little bit. You've came to Israel, you're establishing a home here. I want to hear a story, because I know you and your wife kind of had a traumatic experience when you first came here, that you were kind of hesitant about even telling your family back home, because you're like, don't be worried about it, everything's okay. But yeah, share that story with us.
Yeah, okay. It was in Jerusalem, and there's a lot of tension around the Temple Mount. And back then there used to be a politician, a right-wing politician named Ariel Sharon. And at that time he was very right-wing, and he decided that he was going to go up to the Temple Mount to show, as we should show, the connection of the Jewish people to the Temple Mount. This is the place of our temple. We believe, according to our tradition, it's the place that the world was created from. It's mentioned a number of times throughout the Bible. We have a tremendous connection to the land, and unfortunately now the situation is, it's a house of prayer for everyone except for Jewish people. Jewish people are not allowed to go up there and pray. We can go up there and visit, but we can't go up there and pray. Our temple is no longer built, and we believe that part of the redemptive process will involve the rebuilding. And one Friday, what's called the Second Intifada started, and that was the Friday after Ariel Sharon had visited the Temple Mount. And my wife and I were on the way to relatives in the Old City in Jerusalem, in Ir David. And on the way, we saw that there was something going on. There was a lot of traffic. We saw a bunch of people that had blood on their clothing. And I said, there must be some sort of traffic accident. I saw ambulances. And the next thing I know, I see a huge rock being hurled towards me through the windshield. And then I lost it. I lost all my memory. I don't remember what happened next, but I know I got hit in the face. And the next thing I remember is I was in the car, and my car had hit into a pole. The airbags had deployed, and I saw blood all over the place. And then I remember people climbing on the hood, breaking through the windows, hitting me with rocks. And the next thing I remember is actually being in the hospital, waking up, doing some sort of CAT scan, and x-rays to my head. And at the end of the day, I had a broken nose, stitches in my head, bruises all over my body. And apparently what happened was I was taken out of the car, I was thrown on the road, I was beaten, I was kicked. And my wife's arm was broken. She was trying to protect my head. People were coming at me with rocks in their hands and hitting me, and she got hit by one rock, and that broke her arm. So she was in cast for a while. And luckily there was an ambulance at the time, and we were right next to the Temple Mount when it happened. We were right in the Old City, right outside the Old City. right at the holiest place, and I said to myself, this is the holiest place that, you know, Jewish people have been longing for, have been fighting for generations, and we're still fighting for it. And we still want to return to it. And sometimes, you know, if I had to lose blood, if I had to get injured anywhere in Israel, this is probably the best place that it would happen, because it's such a holy place. We're so connected to this place. Luckily, we're all better. We got over everything. My wife's arm healed. I healed. It didn't stop us. We didn't think once about going back to the States. We didn't think once about our connection to the land. Our connection to the land is so strong. It's maybe even stronger now than it was before.
Wow. So from that moment on, there had to have been something that changed in your thinking. Like, I mean, because in some ways, I don't know, when you go through a traumatic experience like that, something shifts. And so I was curious to hear from you, like, did anything change in your perspective in regards to your zeal for the land, or your understanding of what's really happening here in the land of Israel in any way?
Well, my understanding is that everything is happening for a reason, and this is the land, according to our tradition, that God's eyes are constantly watching. And since that happening, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about Temple Mount, about Jerusalem, about land, about who's the owner of the land, about the conflict with the Palestinians. I don't have any quick, easy solutions. But what I understand is this is something that we're so connected to. There's such a part of us that no other nation in the world has been detached from their land for so long and then returned to the land in such great numbers. And when I look around here, I see the positive. I see the communities being built on the hilltops, and it just encourages me. And after that unfortunate attack, there have been a lot of other attacks. A lot of other friends, a lot of people that I know were hurt and even worse. But we keep on building. We keep on staking our claim to the land. I think what we're doing here in Har Bracha is extremely important. I think the fact that we're here, showing that this land is ours, building this community, living Torah lives, I think this is something that I'm very happy to be a part of.
Wow, that's awesome. So I think I want to take this thing another direction here for a moment, and that is that you're talking about restoration of the land, restoring these mountaintops. What about restoring the family? I think you're a family man. You have a beautiful wife, Naomi, and how many children do you have now?
6 kids.
6 children. Wow. So go ahead and tell us all their names and
okay.
What they mean. I want to hear what they mean too. This will be kind of fun.
My oldest son's name is Emmanuel, which means God is with us. It's something that we were feeling at the time that he was born, and that we feel, you know, God is with us in our struggles, in our happy times, and our difficult times. Our second is a girl named Shalhevetya, and she's around 8. Shalhevetya means the flame of God. It's taken from the Song of Songs, chapter 8. After her comes Nestia. Nestia means miracle of God. And she is 6 years old. She's in 1st grade. After her is Matanya Simcha. He's our second boy. And he is 4 years old. Matanya means a gift of God. Our next one, our fifth, her name is Halali. Halali means give praise, and it's from the Book of Psalms. And our newest is a half-a-year-old. Her name is Tagil. Tagil means to rejoice.
Wow, this is awesome, Avraham. Just to hear your story of coming from the States and rooting yourself here, and just all the depths that you've gotten into. We didn't necessarily get into your sports life and all these things, but there's awesome connection to you and here in the land, and where you're running, you're getting to know the land in a really awesome way, as well as working. You're working the land. You're doing things. You even got your own little place behind your house where you're testing out things, and you got your own olive trees, and you're connected to the land. You're a man that's connected to the land. And you're working, in business and all these things, but I just think it's beautiful what you're doing, and all that you're putting yourself to, just to really be a part of the restoration of the land of Israel. And I just think it's phenomenal, all that you've given, and just giving up stuff to actually come. You've set yourself out, and And you said in the beginning days, it's hard to disconnect yourself from the United States and come here in those hard times that you had, but you've really created something here, and we really see the benefit of what you're doing, and it's the whole community. That you said there's millions of people now that have taken that path that you took to come and make that aliyah, to come up to the land of Israel, to establish the land. And I just really am inspired by your story. But I have one last question for you, and I want to know, what are your dreams? You've seen a lot of things happen here, but what are your dreams for the future?
Well, I guess this ties into the prayers that we say. We pray every day. We mention the rebuilding of Jerusalem. And I think that, people over the last 60, 70 years have given a lot of sacrifice for the land. I think now is the time that we have to focus on Jerusalem. We're already, so many people here in this land, so many Jewish people. Jerusalem, we have to really stress how central it is to the Jewish people. And when I say Jerusalem, I mean ancient Jerusalem. I mean the Holy Temple. I mean all of Jerusalem. We have to raise awareness about Jerusalem, about its building, and hopefully spread our message throughout the whole world. The message that what's happening here is real. That there's a real return of Jewish people to their land. And that's something that we're a part of, something that I'm very happy to be a part of. My dream is to have my children take this path, continue in settling the land. And I think that, everyone who lives in the land of Israel is very important and is doing a great thing. And I think especially on these hilltops here, that this is land that some people deny the connection of the Jewish people to the land. Whether it's Jewish people or Israelis that deny this connection, or our neighbors are in the Arab world that don't want any connection of any Jewish people to any part of the land, we have to stress that we are deeply connected to this land. We're walking in the paths of Abraham. We're connected to God. We're reading the prophecies. We're seeing them being fulfilled. We see the grapevines that you guys work on. We see the fruit coming out of the land like it's never been coming out before. And we're encouraged. And our message to the world is there's something real happening here. And there's something that's never happened before. Where else in the world do you see these miracles happening? Where do you see prophecies being fulfilled if not here? And we want to be part of this. We want our children to be part of this. And I'm calling on all my friends, all Jewish people from around the world to come here.